And we're in. How you doing, Sherry? Welcome to the podcast.
I am fantastic. Thank you for having me.
I can't believe I just recognized or realized or was told that you are also from Canada.
It is a secret. The secret is now out.
The secret is now out. Well, I don't get to have many Canadians on the podcast. I was thinking actually when I came to LA, I was thinking how cool it would be to try to interview all of the Canadians trying to make it in the entertainment industry in LA, but then no one replies to you, and it's very difficult because it's like people. There's a lot of really great Canadians doing really amazing work here, but I think a lot of them are beyond the podcast world. So I've that didn't work out at all, sadly.
They're hiding somewhere.
They are. They're in town. They're in town somewhere, but they're hiding. But no, thank you so much for coming today. We're gonna get in to your book, Adjusted Reality. We're gonna get into longevity, health, everything like that. But I'd love to just learn a little bit more about you, like where you're from.
Beautiful. So, I originally am from Calgary, Alberta, and that's in Canada. And
Yes.
for those that don't know that, and then when I was 19 years old, I was going to go to a two-stepping dance lesson,
Okay, two stepping.
and I had on brand new cowboy boots. So that story ends rather amazingly, because as we were sitting to turn at the light to go into the event to have the dance lessons, we were rear-ended significantly. There was a man in the back with his dog who had just came out of surgery, and he had his little, umbrella-shaped device on his head, and unfortunately, he was much more, distracted than he should be and didn't realize that the light was red
Mm.
and continued to proceed into the back of our truck, and
Oh, wow.
from that, everything changed.
Yeah, I mean that's a traumatic experience to be in a car accident like that. I mean, were you physically injured?
Yes, and the interesting part was, thank goodness for those that are first responders because they're so kind and they're so gracious, and they ask questions that I think are trying to really bring your fear factor down. But when I was sitting in that seat, I couldn't feel my feet
Mm.
after the accident, and that was a moment of reflection, like, how is this even possible?" And make a long story short, the most tragic part was they had to cut my cowboy boots off.
Oh, geez, not the cowboy boots.
He
Yeah.
a good Canadian would understand this.
Right.
So, going through the hospital and all of the, special studies ended up with a release, and it looks like it's just a bad, sprain strain injury, and hopefully this will resolve on its own. And unfortunately for me, I was left with a residual that just never went away. It was, a really, really bad headache. The headaches that make you not want to do anything, the headaches that you can't concentrate and someone's talking to you and you just shut them out because it's like, I can't focus on what you're saying." And I was in the lab, so I was training cellular molecular microbiology, and my time spent in the lab was anywhere from 8 to 10 hours looking into a microscope. So when you have a headache and your chin is down and that's all you need to focus on, those headaches just got worse, so I'd have to take breaks. I couldn't even carry a heavy bag to the lab, because it just made everything so much more intense.
So that was all just residual pain that you were dealing with from the accident of being rear-ended.
Correct.
Wow.
That was the symptom, and I could remember easily just holding back the tears at the end of the day because I didn't want anybody to know that I was suffering so bad, and I would keep continuing to find an answer. So there was the general practitioner, there was the physiatrist, there was the orthopedist, there was the neurologist, and on and on and on. And one day, one of my classmates came up and slid a card across the lab. Um, and he looked at me and he said, I know you're not well. And I appreciated that. And he said, "Why don't you try my chiropractor?"
Mm.
And I looked at him and I thought, if that was going to work, they would have already given me that option.
Right? Maybe. Yeah.
And so he said, "Well, you have nothing to lose." And I thought to myself, this will be my last attempt at trying to get better.
Were you reserved? I mean, like, had you come to the conclusion that this is just something that you're gonna have to live with from now on? Like, had you come that far in failed treatments that you just believed like headaches were going to be part of your regular life?
No,
Hmm.
because at that time, I was so depressed, I wasn't thinking about this is just life. I was just thinking about, is this really life? Like, is this every day like this?
Mhm.
And the depression was starting to sink in, and I wasn't sleeping. Everything was out of balance. And I just remember walking into that chiropractor with my arms crossed and just like, "Ugh, this is ridiculous. Like, this guy's going to help."
Mhm.
And interestingly enough, when I sat in that seat with my arms crossed and I looked at him and I said, what exactly how does this work? And he goes, well, first I'll show you your x-rays. And I'm like, you're, you're going to show me my x-rays? And he's like, yeah. And he goes, have you seen them? I'm like, no,
That's strange that no one had ever shown you your x-rays before.
not a single educational moment had transpired. It was always, we're not sure what's wrong.
Mhm.
And he showed me the x-rays, he talked me through the x-rays, and then he said, "What we're going to do is apply a force back to the very first joint in the body, and, it's called the atlas. It holds up your head."
Mm.
And I was, like, thinking, "A force? This could be painful."
Yeah, like fresh trauma.
Yeah, exactly, trauma on top of trauma,
Mm.
but I was willing to try, and I walked out of that office. Now, remember, I am full in disbelief that this is going to work, just so you know. I walked in with, I don't understand what this is. I don't understand why they never gave me the option, and I don't understand what you're gonna do. And when you said force, I'm out. I really don't wanna be here because force to me was like trauma that I got.
Mhm.
But he applied a very gentle force to the area.
Just with his or her hands, or
With
it?
his hands, and I heard this proverbial popping noise, which everybody gets so excited about on the internet. "Ooh, it cracked, it popped, it's so exciting." I didn't know anything about it at that time. So, I walked out of the office, I got into my car, and I sat there for a second, I thought, "Wow,
Mm.
my headache's gone."
Wow, it was that fast.
I had been 6 months with a headache, Ryan, 6 months, every day. I was on an opiate and didn't even know it. Tylenol 3. I didn't even know it was an opiate.
Mm. You
I
were
mean,
totally addicted to it?
I wasn't addicted, it made me sick to my stomach, but I would take only 1 in the morning just to see if I could get till lunchtime. It just like, I was sick, like, even to this very day, that damage is still with me every single day.
Wow.
And I sat in my car and thought, "What a fluke. Like, what a serious fluke. That'll be back tomorrow because I had another appointment with him the next day. It'll be back tomorrow." That headache never came back, and I've dedicated my entire life to that was my last hope. That should be everyone's first choice. It was natural. Like, you wouldn't believe the tests I had to go through, like pin pricking, and I mean, it was a horrible rendition of like a torture chamber. Here's the next pill, here's the next pill.
Mhm.
And that was it
And this all happened in Calgary?
in Calgary. And
Yeah.
I had to go to my professor and say, "I'm tapping out. I'm done. I don't wanna be." My dream was to be a pediatric oncologist. And I thought I'd witnessed the sick children, and I had lost one, which was devastating, but I thought maybe I could hang in there. And that was the moment where it's like, "Wait a minute. I have changed my entire life
Mhm.
through sickness and perseverance, and no one knew that this non-invasive, drug-free approach and the education I got wasn't a first choice. I don't get it."
Mm.
And that's here I am today.
Wow, that's interesting. So I've had a lot of issues with healthcare over the years, and a lot of skepticism around healthcare, and a lot of skepticism just around this, like what I would consider to be, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is my own opinion. Like it's getting to the point now where doctors are too specialized, and it's like, and they can't see anything out of their own lane. And I've actually had a really kind of few good podcasts with some doctors that come at every problem with a holistic approach, looking at the entire body, looking at diet, looking at chiropractical work, muscle work, everything like that. They look at all of this stuff before they even consider a pharmaceutical or an invasive surgery or something like that. And it's amazing kind of what the outcomes are, and it's usually never there's always an alternative to probably pharmaceuticals and surgery. And it's interesting in your case that that was your last hope or the last thing that someone recommended to you when it should have maybe been one of the first things.
Right.
Yeah.
First and foremost, educate the patient. That's absolutely the fact that I was never educated and never told, "Here's what the potential problem is," they just blew it off. "Oh, it's probably just a sprain strain," and just
And
blew it
you're a
off.
doctor.
Yeah.
So you'd think like if they showed you your x-rays, you would know like you are a doctor. Like why wouldn't they also show
Well,
you?
this was when I was 19.
Oh, so you're still in school.
So I was still in school, so I didn't really understand. I didn't know what to expect, so I didn't have an outcome measure. I had no idea. I'd never been sick before, and I was an athlete. So you can endure pain when you're an athlete, and you will always focus on the outcome. So if someone said, "This is what you're gonna have to do to get well," I'd be like, "Okay, I'm in, but tell me what I need to do." So when they gave me the exercise, I did it religiously. If they said, because at that time I was thinking the medication I was given, that should be the dead giveaway. I'll just take it and I'll be good.
Mhm.
There's a pill for every ill.
Well, that's what they teach you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
take the pill. But
Sponsored by Pfizer.
exactly. And here are all the side effects. La 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 la. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And you said such beautiful words is they being the pharmaceutical companies want you to think that there is an easy out. But the problem that we really truly have, Ryan, is we're starting backwards.
Mhm.
We're waiting till you get sick. And then we're saying, "Okay, now we have something to deal with." That's all backwards. And that's why we need to stop with the experts and start with you. You in your own shoes as the self-agent of the choices you make and the willingness to be the best you based on what you know. I didn't know better, so I couldn't do better.
Mhm. I think preventative healthcare is the only way forward. And whether you're talking about just living a healthy life or whether you're super fit already and you're thinking about living to 150 and you've got the longevity in your mind, it doesn't matter like where it all starts. You're right with you and educating yourself and learning how to make sure that you don't end up in the hospital and this kind of idea of preventative healthcare. Yeah, no one makes money from it, sadly, so they don't promote it. But
So that is really an interesting thought because I sat there one night and thought, "What? How did we even get here?"
Mm,
Because if you really start looking at the past, it always tells you what the future is going to look like
sure.
if you focus on it. So the past really was in true function and form. How do we help people be well? If you give it like if you think of it as the most altruistic reality, like how do we help people get well?
Oh, that's not the reality at all, though.
It's not. And that's exactly why adjusted reality was born is we have to focus on true health, not disease care. We have in America disease care, and we need to really be honest about it. It is disease care, period. It's not health care.
And it's not disease curing.
No.
They're just prolonging disease so they can keep pumping you full of medicine. No, it's absolutely terrible.
I think when we step back, there are bridges that need to be put together. So one is the disease care, and there can be like the brain. There's a piece in the brain where the left brain talks to the right brain. It's called the corpus callosum. And you can take information across the bridge to the disease care and then back over to the healthcare. We need to build these bridges, but we need to be very authentically honest. What are we really doing? If you're coming into a disease care system, then it's really difficult to cross the bridge back to health.
Mhm.
But if you're coming from a healthcare and you only use that bridge every once in a small while, then we're making progress.
Mhm.
That's where we really need to focus our time, our talents, and our treasures in every way, whether that's spiritual, mental, physical, or financial. Our true treasures is in crossing the bridge. And hopefully you cross that disease care bridge very, very rarely. But when you need them, respect is given. Like when we're driving to your podcast, there's the cancer center right close to here, and it's comprehensive breast care cancer treatments. If you need that, well, I hope that there's really good experts in there.
Right. Yeah. Oh, at the I'm at this what is it?
Mount Sinai? Yeah.
Yeah.
Clearly you don't need them, so that's good,
Right.
right?
Yeah, no. I know there's a big hospital there. I just blanked on the name, sadly. Cedar Sinai.
Cedar Sinai,
Yeah.
that's it, yes.
Yeah.
And there's brilliant people in there, and The problem is that they're looking at each segment.
Mhm.
And like you said, you know, these segments are spinning around and they're looking for symptom control. If you had someone in your wildest imagination, someone who could walk with you on a journey that could take you through the path of whole being care, where I'm not looking at you as a liver or the adrenal glands or your heart. I'm looking at you as a whole person who's capable, ready, and able to maintain their health.
Mhm.
That's a different physician.
Yeah, and like you said originally, like, it requires some teaching, right? And it's amazing that you went through all those procedures and went through all those tests, and no one really actually educated you, a medical student at the time, what was actually going on, because you might have had some insight to what was going on as well, or you might have been able to research it a little bit more on your own. I know that was maybe a couple of years ago, and the internet wasn't as robust or as it is today.
It wasn't around, Ryan, but thanks for trying not to make me feel old.
I went to university in the '90s, and the internet was yeah, not really around then either. But yeah, no, it's interesting now, because now you can do research on your own, and you can search for different things, and you can look at medicines that doctors want to give you, and you can say, what are the side effects to these really, and what's really going on. And I've got a huge, I mean, so just a FYI, I was also born in Canada, and I left when I was 22, and I moved to China, and I was in China for 18 years. And then COVID hit, I was in Dubai, and then I was in Switzerland, and now I'm here. So I've kind of lived all around the world. And the United States, I think, in my opinion, is the only country that I've ever visited and been to in my whole life where everything is attacking your physical health. Like like you go outside, it's fast food, it's stuff in the grocery store, it's, home building appliances. Like, I just feel like everything here is trying to make you sick. And then once you get sick, there is a pay to play medical system ready to completely destroy you financially. And, medical bankruptcies are the number one form of bankruptcies in the United States, which is unbelievable. And the healthcare you get is questionable at best. So I just really have found that shocking, because the rest of the world doesn't work like that. And this kind of for-profit system that's been built here has massive amounts of flaws, and trying to keep people healthy out of the hospital system is not one of their priorities.
No, absolutely not.
Mm.
I mean, that's when you follow the money. That's how we built the American Medical Association,
Mhm.
is that we recognized that there needed to be a gatekeeper, and they were the gatekeeper. And then the gatekeeper gets to decide, how is this going to be done? That gatekeeper made the international classification for disease codes, the codes every doctor has to use. So you follow through and you start thinking about, how did we get here?
Mhm.
Well, you recognize that in order for anyone in medicine to recognize how the human body works, they're given a symptom, and that symptom then gets treated by a pharmaceutical product. So the system itself is built fragmented on symptomology. It's never been built on looking at, how do you keep health. It's been, how do you create opportunities to get rid of symptoms.
Mhm.
They were so different.
They are, yeah. So are you kind of suggesting that like a holistic medical approach to keep people healthy, like, longer, is the correct way to provide healthcare to the masses, to the people?
If, Ryan, we could change the world today and we had a magic wand, I would say break the system. Keep the disease care the way it is. Like, keep doing funding the research on, you got breast cancer, let's figure out how to get you back to status quo. That's one piece, but then actually disease care is what it is. It's disease care. You're sick, you have a symptom, you need help. But then we need to fundamentally come up with the truth. The truth is, let's build health and let's put dollars behind it that showcase, here are the agencies that you have. These are the choices, because it's environment, and it's what you do in that environment. And that, I think, is why it's so easy to talk about biohacking
Mhm.
into health. You can't hack a system that's perfect. How
Mhm.
do you hack a perfect system? Your body is designed by the nervous system. That is the most advanced operating system there is on earth today, period. That's a mic drop.
Mhm.
You don't hack a perfect system. What you do is you have to understand the manual to this operational system, and we've never understood the manual. This is the most complex, beautiful system that can work in perfect harmony if given the right environment. The choices you make in the creation of the environment that you're in, that's health.
Mhm.
And that's what we should be studying. That's where the big dollar should be going to.
Right, but that's it. There's just no dollars flowing in that direction, and no one's figured out how to really monetize it.
Exactly. But there will be.
Mm.
I really believe there will be because now we're starting to look at the money that could go in to optimizing and really creating a preventative model could actually flow money out of the disease care and flow into the healthcare. What would that look like? And what would the government do if you could change the system and put the money towards the research that helps people understand their choices? Because if I said to you, Ryan, you can't have 5 whiskeys at night before bed because it's going to mess up your balance of sleep. It's going to throw off your what we call neuroplasticity. We can get into that later.
Mhm.
And then you know that you're going to be dehydrated the next day. You're going to have cravings for fat the next day and the reasons why. Then you could say to yourself, self, not going to have 5.
Mm.
I might only have 2. I have choices. The choices are built in, and you have a digital twin talking to you that says, "You know what, Ryan? You made a good choice tonight. Instead of your regular 5 that you have, you had 2. And here's some of the benefits of not having 5."
Mhm.
And then maybe you could change it around to not having any at all.
Mm. I mean, I've gone through a similar transformation since I've been here, actually, because I've been now in the United States for 2 years, and I've got one of these like health tracking devices,
Mhm.
and you can see if you have dinner at 8 p.m. how well you sleep. If you have dinner at 5 p.m. how well you sleep. If you have a drink at 6 p.m. versus 9 p.m., you know how you sleep. If you don't drink at all, you know how to sleep. And it's like you said it right from the start. Like education is the key, right? So whatever health tracker you've got, you can actually start to understand what helps your nervous system rest and recover well at night. And then that could be like just the first step, like getting, proper sleep every night, getting proper rest and recovery. And that's been a huge like learning curve for me. And it's helped me avoid a lot of things. It's, helped me kind of clean up my entire diet and focus a lot more on that. Because like I said, like I've never lived in a country where you just can't eat bread, and because flour is complete poison, and it's shocking. And even going out to restaurants here in Los Angeles, the amount of restaurants here in Los Angeles that cook with various vegetable oils and corn oils and all this stuff, and this is stuff your body can't process, and it just makes you feel awful. But that's par for the course in this town, and it's getting hard to like go out and find decent places to eat. Even expensive restaurants, cheap restaurants, they're all using the same cooking oil. It's very frustrating.
You're inspiring me because change only happens
Mm.
when we vote with our feet.
Yeah.
And that's why adjusted reality really is not a book and it's not a podcast. It's a movement.
Mhm.
This is a moment where we reflect on how do we change what we know is not right. And that means that when you have choices, you make that choice. You know what happens? You bankrupt those companies. That's your choice. That's your agency. That's your responsibility, especially if you're a mom or a dad out there and you're listening right now. You get to decide what goes in your son or daughter's lunches because when you know better, you get to choose to do better.
Mhm.
Like, is it cutting up some carrots for the next day, or is it going to be throwing a Lunchable in there?
Yeah, or a Snickers bar or fruit roll-ups or whatever else is on the menu, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. It's crazy. So let's go back a little bit. So when you had your injury at 19 in Alberta and Calgary, you got rear-ended, um, and they had to cut off your cowboy boots. What was the kind of initial diagnosis to what had happened to you?
The initial diagnosis was whiplash. That doesn't mean anything. It means that you have some ligaments that might have been stretched, some muscles that might have been torn.
Mhm.
That was it.
And what kinds of testing and specialists did you see? So first of all, for anyone out there, the Canadian healthcare system is funded by the government, so it's a
Right.
public healthcare system. So it didn't actually cost you any money,
Right.
versus which is totally different from the United States. But I'm just curious what kind of specialists they introduced you to along the way.
So because I still never got the feeling in my feet at the time of being whisked off to the hospital, the first thing they wanted to check, and they did a CAT scan to see what happened. Like, is this a spinal cord injury?
Mhm,
Because paraplegic injuries happen all the time, and they want to make sure first and foremost that there wasn't a disruption in the spinal cord because that's immediate. You have to take care of that, and they did their due diligence, making sure that they blocked the spine and made sure that there was no rotation because there's people that have walked around with a fractured spine, especially at C1 and 2,
mhm,
and they don't know until something desperately wrong happens, and then they become paraplegic. So, there are very serious complications to a car accident where you have to rule out if someone's having these kind of neurologicals. Interesting fact, though, after seeing the neurologist and going through all the pinprick tests, and they set you up with, all these electrodes to measure what's going on, the neurologist was really interested because there were spots in my feet where I could feel and there were spots that I couldn't.
mhm,
And he put that back to my low back. And I said, "But my my pain is in my head."
mhm,
Good for that neurologist
mhm,
because he was right. The discomfort I had in my feet had nothing to do with my head. It actually had to do with my low back
mhm,
because I never even talked about the low back to my chiropractor at the time because all I cared about in all honesty, was just get rid of the headaches. I can deal with the low back pain. I didn't even tell them about it. I just needed you to take care of the worst thing. But I had significant low back pain. And then when I went back in and he said, "How you doing?" I go, "My headaches are gone." And I said, "I don't want to be, selfish here, but I have a little bit of low back pain." And he's like, "Why didn't you say anything?" Because I didn't care. Like, if you can fix this, I can deal with it. I'm an athlete. I can do that.
right.
But when he adjusted my low back, after the tingling and numbness feeling that I'd gone to try to get help with, gone.
Mm,
And I said, "Why is that?" Because the neurologist said this probably come from my low back, and he goes, "There's different outputs. I'm dealing with an input, which is your brain and your spinal cord, but there are places where you can actually get." He used the word congested. I kinda think of it like a highway. You get if you wanna go from here to there, you've gotta have an open highway.
well, this whole thing's a highway. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
So he created there was functional disruption in the low back, causing impairment. And so that the full feedback loop was not happening. Um, and when he created that opening in that space and that movement, structure, and function coming back together again, voila, harmony was back. And I could feel my feet again. And it seemed so it wasn't I was fine with not complaining about my low back because my headache was gone, but when I got the opportunity to say, "Hey, what are the chances you could work on the feet problem?"
Mhm,
And the neurologist said, but he didn't have an answer for it. He gave me I believe at the time it was like Neurontin. It was something to it's like rotten for the nerve is what I remember it. I'm like, "That sounds really bad. What are you giving me for my nerve problem?" He's like, "It's a medication to work on the nerves to kinda help with inflammation, so maybe the nerves will respond again." Don't you think it's fascinating that it was an adjustment,
mhm.
not a pill that changed everything for me?
Yeah, and again, like, no company is gonna go publicly listed and be worth billions and billions of dollars by doing chiropractic
No,
work well, you know what I mean? It's
absolutely
about
not.
selling pills.
Yes.
So this is interesting. So you went through all these treatments, and you saw all these specialists, and you got all these tests done, and it was at your last, like, wit's end that you're like, "Okay, I'm gonna go see this chiropractor." And it's interesting because chiropractic work is body work, and it requires a holistic understanding of the way the body works and the fact that everything's connected to everything. And it's amazing that more doctors either, I don't know if they're not aware of it, but they should be because they all went to medical school, but they become so specialized that it almost seems like they forget that everything's connected, and that if you have a headache here, it can be because you've got a hip, spine problem down here. Like it's amazing that it takes so long to figure out what's wrong if you go through like a traditional medical like system where you visit your family doctor and then he or she introduces you to a specialist and then he or she introduces you to another specialist. Whereas, maybe seeing a holistic doctor right away or someone who really understands the full body experience, might be able to cut that time down.
So you said something really brilliant, which is when you think through um, the fact that the medical specialist has a job, which they take very seriously, but they're also given what they know. And here's the thing, remember, we started this conversation with the follow of money. This will blow your mind. Is that the American Medical Association purposefully ensured that you, the medical doctor, did not come to chiropractic. And they did that through a campaign. And most people don't know this. Like, most people do not know why chiropractic was a slang term and they would call us quacks. They don't know why that word is. And I love those people that come up and say, "Oh, you're the quack."
Mm.
And it makes me smile. Like, it does not hurt me at all. It's not a disdainful. It actually helps me recognize that you don't understand what's happening to you.
Mhm.
So what happened was the AMA, and stop me if you know the story, they did a campaign called Contain and Eliminate.
Interesting. What is what walk me through that.
Contain and Eliminate was the American Medical Association's ability to harness the power. And what was happening is they were seeing that people were actually going to chiropractors. We need to put a stop to that because we're the gatekeeper. We're the gatekeeper of the healthcare system. The AMA said we cannot have this happening because chiropractic said we are not practicing medicine.
So hold on, the AMA doesn't have any authority over chiropractic.
Correct.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah.
It's so first adjusted reality moment. High five.
Yeah.
So that's the problem. So in the 1940s, they started to see patients leaving the medical and going to see chiropractors because they were having problems.
Mhm.
And then they weren't coming back. Wait a minute, we can't have that. We own the system. So we need to get rid of these chiropractors. They either fall under us because we were portal of entry, which means people could go directly to the door and say, I want treatment from a chiropractor. And that doesn't work in the 1940s. We absolutely need to get rid of this profession. And in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, they did a full campaign. They hired celebrities
Mm.
to bash chiropractors.
Wow.
They set them up in the newspaper to talk about chiropractic as quackery and actual vulgar type of medicine,
Mhm.
and they actually put them in jail. They would actually go to the authorities and say they're practicing medicine without a license, you need to arrest them.
Wow.
I know.
Yeah.
This is a book, it's called Contain and Eliminate. The author is Howard Waleski, who is a Chicago journalist, a phenomenal individual who wrote the truth and had to discover the truth.
And it's so the AMA put out this campaign to stop people going to chiropractors because the chiropractic experience and the work that chiropractors were doing was too efficient. And you can just go straight to a chiropractor's office and make an appointment. You don't have to see a family doctor. You don't have to get any medication. You don't get referred to a specialist. So by going directly to a chiropractor, you're essentially saying you cut out the rest of the medical industry entirely, which is a huge problem if you're the AMA and you're making money from that wheel.
Bingo.
Oh.
And now, and this is all documented because it ended up being a huge lawsuit because the actual campaign was discovered in writing.
Oh, really? Someone who was dumb enough to write it down?
Yes.
Oh.
And so the plot thickens.
Mhm.
Okay. So now we have all the documents and it shows how they were undermining the chiropractic. So if you were a medical doctor and you referred a patient to a chiropractor, you could lose your license. You'd be up for a medical review by your board.
By just trying to help your patient.
Correct.
That doesn't make any sense.
But it does if you're trying to get rid of a profession.
If you follow the money.
Everybody is scared to refer to a chiropractor. And if a chiropractor referred a patient to get an x-ray at a hospital, it would be denied.
No.
So they did everything in their power to get rid of the chiropractors. Now that's the past, and it's a powerful past, which is why they called us quacks and they put it out into ads and they did all of the things that they needed to do. And if you were to be a medical doctor and want to teach at a chiropractic college, you would lose your license.
Really? That's crazy, because when I was talking earlier about holistic medicine and doctors that practice holistic medicine, like chiropractors are one of them, right? Because they have to understand what's going on in the entire body in order to be able to understand the symptoms, and then again where the blockage is on this super highway where everything is connected. And that makes total sense that they didn't want that was like the first version, I guess, of holistic healthcare that they tried to stamp out.
And they almost did it.
Mhm.
If it wasn't for a pure accident that these documents got found and actually sent. It's a great story in the book in Adjusted Reality. But the other piece of that that we needed to come to understanding was how did we get this slang term? It's like a sticker on a beautiful vase. You try to rub it off and there's this sticky residue you can't get rid of. Well, even today, medical doctors don't know why we're called quacks.
Mhm.
They just go with it. It's like, I don't know, you probably kill your patients, right? I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. We need to work together and you need to identify. So I'm at a high, very high level um, artificial intelligence meeting with healthcare providers of all sorts from the Ivy Leagues all the way down. And I went to one of the emergency room chief medical directors in the room and I said, "Have you ever worked with a chiropractor before?" And he looked at me like, "Oh, like I was an insect that shouldn't be in the room." And beautiful because now I get to like figure out, do I sting him or do I just flutter around?
Right.
Because if you're gonna look like I'm an insect, I'm gonna figure out, how are we gonna play together?
Mhm.
And I said he says, "No, no, no, we actually we don't work with chiropractors." I said, Why is that?" And he goes, "Because you cause strokes."
Really?
And I smiled, and I said, "It's very unfortunate
Mm.
that you say that." And I said, "Where did you get that information?" He goes, "Well, it's on our board exams."
Mhm.
I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, what?" Could you tell me that again? And he literally said, "When you're getting your diplomat in emergency medicine on the board exam, is what are the causes of stroke? And one of them is chiropractic.
Are you serious?
Deadly.
And that's one of the things that emerging doctors have to learn in order to get certified to work in emergency rooms.
Is that frightening?" So I said to him, "You do recognize
It's just their
indoctrination."
a false claim.
Yes. That appears real, which is fear. They fear for their patients that if you so this is the moment where we have to be honest because I was working with the Harvard, editorial, individual, and I had to share with her the 15 papers, the recent papers that show the difference between causation and association. They needed to understand that even medical doctors are associated with stroke patients because you walk in and you're having a stroke and I'm a medical doctor. I didn't cause it, but I'm gonna refer you to the ER,
Mhm.
and the ER is gonna go, "Oh, well, did you see a chiropractor?" Well, no, actually, I saw my MD, but did the MD get cause and say, "Oh, well, that MD caused your stroke?" No.
Mhm.
They immediately jump to this unfortunate question, which is, "Did you see a chiropractor?" "Yes, I did see my chiropractor."
Mm.
And the ER doctor that, "See, I told you you shouldn't go see a chiropractor." Truth is, the research is real. In fact, it was last year the number 3 paper in all the world in the scientific reports was about stroke in chiropractic. And that's when they all had to recognize, holy dynamite.
Mhm.
This is causation versus association. This is not the same thing. And that seeing a chiropractor and then going to the ER is not the chiropractor causing the stroke. Now, all things, there's adverse events in everything,
Mhm.
but the reality is if a force was able to cause a stroke, how many car accidents are there a year? And then start to reflect on Could that be causing strokes? And the answer is no.
Mhm.
How many times have you ever heard, "Oh, that guy got in a car accident, he had a stroke."
Mm.
That's almost virtually 0, and it's tragic when strokes happen, and no one can deny that.
Sure.
But you have to get your facts straight to be in the adjusted reality world, which is there was a reason this happened, and it was called fear, and it was called get rid of the quacks because they're dangerous, because their bottom line is they could hurt our bottom line. And so the AMA had to come out with an apology
Mm.
and a financial settlement. And that is why I think people today need to recognize where the word quack came from and how it started and why it continues is people don't understand. And when you don't understand, you fear, and fear is evidence, false evidence that appears real. And that's what they did.
That's amazing that they indoctrinated this lie right into their, like, entrance exams, and that kind of proliferated through the entire medical ecosystem. That's unbelievable. That's pretty dark.
It is.
It's interesting because, like, don't doctors like, my cousin, is actually, a few cousins are doctors, but my don't they do, like, a don't you have to recite, like, a Hippocratic oath where you promise not to do any harm to your patient? Isn't that, like, the first thing that I was gonna swear, but isn't that, like, the first fucking thing that you learn when you're a doctor? Like, so wouldn't you, move mountains and redirect rivers to try to find the best possible treatment for your patient and not just the most profitable option for you?
So, above all else, do no harm. That is the Hippocratic Oath, and it has not been removed from the chiropractic oath of taking your license. It has become optional for medical doctors
Optional.
to take the oath
Optional. It's ridiculous. Yeah.
because at the end of the day, why should they take an oath above all else to do no harm if the harm could actually cause a cure? And that's some of the rhetoric I've been hearing. And I want to embrace and love my medical profession. I do, and I think the chiropractic profession knows the place.
Mm.
There's a bridge, and we need to make a bridge.
Mhm.
We need to really appreciate, respect, and help them understand chiropractic. We are not the enemy. The system was the enemy, and the system gave false information. And that's where the medical doctors, the older ones, particularly like the younger doctors that are coming out, like we can be best friends. Like I could hang out with you any day if you're a medical doctor, any day, every day. And I could work with you with no problems at all. I walked in and was asked by a young doctor, and I won't name the name of the organization, but it was chaired by one of the chief medical officers for a hospital. And the young doctor who was setting up a convention said, "I'd like to invite you to speak because you're the most knowledgeable chiropractor I've ever met, and I want them to know what chiropractic is." And I said, "Any day, you name the place, the answer is yes."
Mhm.
And then he had to walk it back because the 75-year-old chairman of the board said, "Not on my watch."
Wow. Wow, he really played his card there.
And I was like, "You know what? Unfortunately, sometimes things change one death at a time." And it's sad to say, but I think your audience deserves to see a better future where whole being care, where someone who can walk the journey with you while you're healthy to decide what options are best for you and give you choices.
Mm.
But like we have to give adverse event discussions. Like this could happen. But one of the smiles that I had was, can you imagine if you went to a chiropractor and you had to describe that the adverse events are, more cognitive function, better sleep, a healthier environment, better choices. You tend to have optimized performance in sports. I mean, that could be an adverse event. Versus, suicidal dependencies, loss of bladder control, you're having a, difficulty focusing and, you are,
All the side
yeah, all
effects.
the side effects, they're so sad that they play music to.
Yeah.
And to me, if you broke the system, you would not advertise medications.
No, I mean, the United States is what, one of only 2 countries in the world that advertises medications. It's the
That's right.
US and New Zealand,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
And
that shouldn't be a thing.
that should not absolutely be a thing. That's tragic.
I actually recently subscribed to YouTube Premium, and this is not a shout out to YouTube, but I actually had to subscribe to YouTube Premium because there were so many pharmaceutical ads coming up in my feed when I was trying to watch basketball highlights or something like that, that I got so sick and tired of it that I actually had to apply for the non-advertisement version of YouTube just because of the pharmaceutical garbage coming at me.
Interesting, they did it in movies too,
Yeah.
the trailers now. So I purposefully put together for Adjusted Reality during the holidays a trailer that real science, real stories, real people. That's an adjusted reality moment.
Mhm.
Because why would you want to sit in your seat and listen to a pharmaceutical ad when you can sit in your seat and start thinking about how you want to run your life?
Mhm.
Because the choices you make are based on the information you have. Well, you better need a library to get yourself in the right space to be able to actually keep your health. Because there are, as I say in the book, there's a nine-headed hydra out there that's willing to zap and siphon your health and take away your happiness.
Mhm.
And that is void of benevolence,
Mhm.
completely void of it. It has no place to actually want to keep you healthy. There's no plus there. Every chiropractor I know, and I know many, because we are across the globe now, the Foundation for Chiropractic Progress, we want the best for every patient, and we want to be able to start with prevention first. We've always wanted that.
Mhm.
But then the medical doctors are like, no, you need to work in our codes. We're still working in their codes. They're international classified disease codes. That's how they throttle our reach.
Mhm.
They throttle our payment. So if I have to work in this coding system, it means I need to have a symptom. It means you need to be sick to come and see me.
Mhm.
It means I need to have a code that showcases you have a disease and I have a symptom treatment. But if we had a better system, it would be, I'm here to optimize your care so that we can prevent Ryan from having poor sleep, poor digestion, poor apathy, poor hope. Like you can't have hope in today's world if you can't cope.
No, that's true, yeah. And to be honest, the more side effects you're dealing with and the more sick you are and the more you have to go to the hospital, the more your premiums go up and the more you pay in insurance. And then the hospitals just charge more for all these services because the insurance companies are paying more and nothing's really getting done. Just all the rich people are just shuffling money back and forth and you're just paying huge amounts of money for your insurance. You don't even know what's going on.
No, you don't. And I remember meeting a nurse when my son was getting his appendix out, and she was such a beautiful nurse. And she said, um, they they're asking me to ask you if you'd like your son to have all of his immune shots right now. And I said, whoa, 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 whoa. I said, my son is going in to get his appendix out. Yeah, but he's up for his next booster shots and blah, blah, blah. And I said, wait a minute. Like, and she goes, I know, I'm just doing my job.
They wanted to load him up with a bunch of vaccines before his appendix.
But is that the most amazing thing? Like, you want to take out someone's appendix, which which was life-saving because it was frightening how bad things were,
Sure.
and here we are at the ER, and I'm trying to wrap my head around the concept of you wanna bust a move on his immune system before you rip out his appendix while he's trying to heal? That sounds like a really good idea.
Yeah.
No. But what happens when you get these shots is they get paid.
Yeah.
They get paid better and better and better. So whatever you need, we got it because I want to be paid and everybody. And so the nurse was apologetic and almost embarrassed that she had to even ask the question because she knows better.
But if you weren't a doctor, do you think you would have called her out?
No,
And how many people just say, "Oh yeah, of course."
I dedicate my life to that, Ryan. You start thinking about what's the price. Like, Ryan, if I was to say, Ryan, stop bashing the pharmaceutical companies, come on the journey with me and we'll pay you a couple $1,000,000. Some people would think about it. And I finally realized there's no pharmaceutical company that could afford me because the price is my life.
Mhm.
I will not allow someone to be sick and continue to be sicker if they can know better.
As a doctor, that should be everyone's responsibility, and that should be the way every doctor feels. Don't like, isn't that why people become doctors?
I always question now, though, you think about the healthcare system has changed radically. Like the medical doctor who used to have a beautiful practice in his house is an example because we used to live in Los Gatos, and there was a brilliant medical doctor who practiced out of his house. And then he sent us a letter saying that my practice was being bought by the hospital.
Oh, that's interesting.
And so I am going to be working in the hospital system. So we no longer take your insurance.
Hmm.
And that to me was one of the tragic pieces is that medical doctors' practices were being bought left, right, and center, and they could no longer compete with the aggregate of the hospitals buying all these independent practitioners' practices. So I swoop it all up. Now you have no choice, Ryan. You have to go to the hospital. You have to go see your doctor. He's on floor 3 in unit 103, and that's what you got to do. And you're going to have to pay more because, well, we're supporting the system.
And once you go into that hospital, then all of the specialists are in that hospital, and get referred to everyone who's also under the same roof, and all the medicine is in the same place, and you can see how that just snowballs.
And it's not their fault because the system was made and designed for them to work together, and it seems like it would work more effectively if everybody was under one roof, but it was only medicine that was under one roof, and it was designed in a hospital system.
And a private one that is profit generating at that.
So medical doctors that are in there, they're doing their best for their patient with what they know, but a lot of them really still don't know that there is an effective opportunity for a patient to be healthy. And then I had several of my patients come in and say, I asked them how are they doing and where have they been for their problem that oh, my doctor only lets me talk about one symptom at a time. I said, what?
Mm. That's crazy.
She only has 7 minutes, so we have to get in everything in 7 minutes. And then I started to think to myself, this system is just on a crash course to hell.
Mhm.
If we're going to continue this way, how are we going to be able to, number one, keep our youth healthy? And now you're seeing how sick they are, how depressed they are. The opioid epidemic has ravaged, like full on ravaged, the American economy, and everybody's impacted. Think of one person that's not impacted by someone addicted to an opiate because their chances of driving a car are high.
Mhm.
Their chances of falling asleep or having an injury because they're not fully awake or involved, that's real. And then the opioid overdoses, the accidental overdoses. The mother that I met took one in the morning, has 3 kids, forgot she took it in the morning, took it again on her coffee break, overdosed and fell and cracked her head in the bathroom. $90,000 in the ER room.
Mhm.
$90,000 for forgetting that she took her opiate in the morning and one at 10:30 and overdosed.
Yeah, that's insane.
That's $90,000.
Mhm.
And she took her kids to school.
Hi.
And that's just one mother who was innocent in a system that was broken. And I mean, holding up the mothers across America that are full on broken because they lost their babies.
Mhm.
That's the inspiration.
Coming from Canada, do you find you have a totally different perspective on the way the US healthcare system works than some of your colleagues that might have been born here and grown up here?
Yes.
Yeah. Having an international perspective on healthcare really does open you up to the complete fraud that the US system projects onto patients and potential patients. And it's really sickening because I've always been I've always been deeply annoyed by anything that's sold to me with the emotion of fear behind it. And it's almost like that's what the entire healthcare system does here in the United States is they just put fear behind you. And it's interesting because I feel like I feel like the baby boomers, like maybe one or two generations above me, there was this trust. Like you trusted your lawyer, you trusted the news anchor, you trusted the doctor. And there was this inherent trust that was there. And that seemed to like work for 40 or 50 years, even if they didn't deserve it. And clearly with this, this sabotaging of chiropractors and this AMA scandal, behind the scenes of getting celebrities and all this stuff, obviously they didn't deserve that trust. but the trust was still there. And I feel like now my generation in the last kind of 5 or 10 years is coming to starting to ask like real questions. And even though the next generation are not getting outside enough, not socializing enough, not being involved in sports enough, not taking care of their physical and mental health quite enough, I hope that they're way more skeptical in their 20s than I was in my 20s, because I kind of had that inherent trust as well. And hopefully the questions that we're talking about today, like younger people in their 20s are starting to figure it out, and holding the system accountable, and trying to maybe do their best to change it if possible.
I have met some absolutely amazing medical doctors that I truly love and adore, that really do have the best interests of their patients in mind. However, I think you've nailed something is trust. I go across the world talking to people, and the one thing that I hear when I'm sitting in my airplane seat and I'm doing a PowerPoint presentation, I'm working on research and writing, and someone will say, "Hey, are you a chiropractor?" And I'll say, "Yes." And what I hear is, "Oh my god, I love my chiropractor." I hear that all the time. If I had a dollar for every time, I would really be doing well, because that word love showcases something very fragile in today's world, which is I have a friendship with my chiropractor.
Mm.
I can tell my chiropractor anything, and they often do. And I call this the last doorknob question. I'm ready to walk out the door and they ask me the question that's really been on their mind the whole time, but they're afraid to ask, and they get it out right at the end. Those are the questions that make me stop and pause. One of them was a woman that I had twice told her to go back to her general practitioner because I can't diagnose cancer.
Mm.
I did find a lump under her armpit, and I did say, "You need to go back and talk to your primary care physician, your medical practitioner." And she said, "I did." And I said, "Tell him to take the gloves off."
Mhm.
So she went back and he rolled his eyes and said, "Your chiropractor's just feeling a lymph node." And I said, "We need to find you another medical doctor."
Yeah.
And she did. And she was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Now, I'm just about to turn the knob. And she says, "I have a question." And then I know, oh, here it comes. She said, "I was wondering if you would pray with me."
Oh.
I've never had this conversation with this patient
Mm.
about spiritual, and I'll never say no to a patient that asks me something so intimate and so difficult. This is different than a medical doctor.
Sure.
And I said, "Absolutely. What are we going to pray for?" She said, "Well, I'm pregnant
Oh.
and they want to start chemotherapy and they told me to abort."
Oh, wow.
This is a very deep, deep relationship you have with a patient that would ask you something like that. Then you know, I'm not just a doctor,
Mm.
I'm part of their family.
Mhm.
For her to ask me that is so deep and compelling. And that's what we did. What's the answer? She did not abort. She went through the chemotherapy, and that baby is brilliant. I mean, just a bundle of beauty and joy and everything else that you would hope for.
So the medical doctors told her that she needed to abort before she went through chemotherapy. And in in this country, you can't even have an abortion in half the states.
It's such a tender moment
Yeah.
to be that person that the patient really trusts, that the patient can talk to. And in the book, that these are experiences that I've had that they have shaken me from my spinal cord to my brain of how I have become that person and how my colleagues, they strive to be the best they can do for their patient and take them from where they are to where they need to go. And that's a trajectory. That's so often, Ryan, when you're on a journey, it's right there. It's like you need to know what your GPS coordinates are. And I often find myself finding patients that are nowhere.
Mm.
They have no latitude, no longitude. No one can find them. Where are you? And they don't know. And I say, well, wait a minute. Let's take a moment to reflect. From nowhere, I hear you. And we can go from nowhere to now here
Mhm.
by the choices that you make, not what I do. I'm going to take you with me on this journey. We're together in this, hand in hand. Let's make a better world together. Because I know something very important that's going on with your body, but I'm not the total answer. You are.
Mhm. Yeah. It's interesting. Several holistic doctors that I've spoken to on the past and had on the podcast as well, they mentioned that, like, they mentioned similar to the experience you had, that, that their patients had gone through lots of specialists, lots of other general practitioners, blah, 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 and then eventually as a last gasp resort, gone and seen a holistic doctor that doesn't have a specific specialty. And maybe you could throw in chiropractic as one of those fields as well, that kind of is a more of a holistic approach to it. And it's interesting that, that again, that this isn't like a first kind of step in the process. Like, especially if you've been in an accident and you've been hit, there's going to be physical trauma, and one would expect, like, you would need a holistic approach to understand that physical trauma and what it's done to your body. You don't need a specialist who's just going to look at your brain, or, I understand the spinal cord issue, doing a CAT scan or something to figure out if you've got a severed spinal cord, because then the treatment totally changes. But if everything is intact but you're still really hurting, one would assume that, like, the approach to fixing that would be a holistic one.
Yes, absolutely. So imagine my magic wand that we started. I would love all the holistic healthcare providers to be in the healthcare opportunity field.
Mhm.
Red flags and reasons why medical doctors should be working together with that holistic provider, and that we're not complementary. What are we complementing? Like, that was always one of my rubs. Like, you call me a complementary healthcare provider, I'm not complimenting you.
Mhm.
I am an essential part of your health. Essential. Because I'm going to walk with you through the fires of hell when you need that.
Mhm.
I'm also going to celebrate on a sunshiny day, because what we don't think about is the environment that we live in. You have technology in most people's hands 6 to 8 hours a day. Forward head flexion changes everything. Your balance is off, your alignment's off, your nervous system starts to change, how your digestion changed. Because you think about, you have two systems running in the same at the same time, and they have to be in balance. You have the sympathetic, which is your fight or flight. That's your primitive system. If I take out a gun right now, you're in flight, right? Then you have the autonomic system, the parasympathetic system, which is rest and digest. A body in harmony has a brain that is monitoring these systems. That's that operating system I told you about. Everybody's looking for the next app, the next iOS system, but you're only given one operating system, and it's called the human frame. You're a whole being, and all systems need to be in function. How do you balance it? How do you keep the fire flight? Like, you're going to get fired from your job, and you've got a house payment, you've got a car payment. You're like freaking out to manage the rest and digest. No, you shut that system down.
Mhm.
You're no longer resting and you're not digesting. So your body is totally whacked. What medical doctor is going to help you?
Mhm.
Said no one never. They're not there for that. My job as a medical doctor is to figure out what the symptom is you come in with, diagnose it, just as I was told to do, treat it with a medication as I was told to do, or figure out where I can send you next. And usually that's to my medical counterpart. And bless their heart, because they're doing exactly what they were trained to do. But if I'm coming in knowing that it's a stress situation, my job threw me off, I got fired at work, and now my wife is looking at how we're going to pay the bills, and my two kids at school are, they've got to be fed. This system is broken. Who's going to help that person?
Mhm.
You got to find a balance, and you got to find a reality.
And in this kind of case, like, even preemptive healthcare is really important, because if you're already taking care of your body, if you're already seeing a holistic specialist or a chiropractor or something like that, you can your body will be kind of more in tune, and you'll be more aware of how to deal with these stresses in a healthy way, instead of going to the bottle, or going drugs, or letting the anxiety and stuff like that completely overtake you.
There are many people that have these significant traumas in life. especially our veterans. Think of the trauma that they've seen, felt, heard, and tried to work through. And we're starting to see that oftentimes their pain was being masked by the opiate. And then when they figured out that, well, this is addictive, now we need to figure out how to help them more. Well, help them get the care they need and deserve.
Mhm.
Help them deal with post traumatic stress syndromes. Help them understand that the messenger is in their brain and that brain changes everything, that the nervous system was meant to be in balance. And if it can't be in balance, it's unbalanced. It's just that simple. And you can't have a medical doctor focusing on the symptoms of post traumatic stress disorder without trying to figure out what is the outcome that I can give. A medical doctor is not giving a balanced system based on the impairment that the patient has unless they're coordinating with someone who can be non-farm, non-drug free approaches that may actually be a first choice rather than a last choice. And that's kind of it. I'm not bashing a system that gives you a drug for a symptom. I'm just saying, can we think about a better way?
Yeah, or even look at alternative medications like psilocybin or something like that, which is banned in most states in the United States. I think that's in Colorado and Oregon. Which has proven to be better in dealing with post traumatic stress disorder (PTSD) and also depression and things like that. And a lot of veterans are just fed antidepressants all the time, and they don't get better. And a lot of them kill themselves. I had a few veterans here on the podcast as well, and it's crazy that um, procedures and medicines like psilocybin are more widely used as a way of kind of getting people away from all the nasty side effects that the depression medication has. It's it's the digger you the deeper you dig, the crazier the stories get about how kind of broken and strange the system is.
And when we think about our youth, just one piece in one of the journals of brain is talking about walking and the benefits to the prefrontal cortex. And most people are like, yeah, what's the prefrontal cortex? Why would I care? If we're siloed in our seat for 8 hours a day and we're not getting input to areas of our brain, what starts happening? Your main objective for the brain that runs everything that you own is to keep it neuroplastic, keep it functioning at its optimum. So you stay stagnant and you start decreasing the everyday opportunities for your brain to be ready to take on new things. Your brain should be able to balance between fight and flight, rest and digest. Your brain should be able to be cognitively aware of where you are. Like you shut your eyes and you put your fingertip to your nose, your brain is the one that brings that gap together. It's not your finger, it's your brain. And most people don't understand your brain is an extension down to your fingers or your toes. And the spinal cord is part of your brain. So how you treat your spine and your extremities means it all functionally comes up to one of those brilliant places. And to be able to really treat dis-ease, not disease is the sickness, but you're no longer in function because you've been sitting for 8 hours a day and your posture is completely horrific.
Mhm.
Ask yourself what's happening to our children. And they're not getting out and playing. You need nature, as you know, get some forest bathing in and some balance back in your life. That's what we need to be encouraging. It seems simple, but we've impaired so many beautiful things that are so critical to our health. And yes, technology is great, but recognize it's changing your brain.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's interesting. Something was came across my brain the other day. Actually, I was out hiking a couple days last week, and I was off the grid, and it was beautiful. And I try to do that at least once a month. And and it was funny because like I was thinking the way my parents grew up, and my parents, they got married, I guess, in their 20s, and um, and I remember like my dad in his late 20s with his first job was able to buy like a three-bedroom house with a two-car garage. And my parents were able to sustain themselves on a single income. My dad was working, my mom stayed at home and took care of myself and my younger brother. And that was like the way everyone lived, right? And we had tons of free time on the weekends to do things, and having a functional parent at home was great. And then nowadays you fast forward like 40 something years, to where we are now, and you've got two parents working 12 to 16 hours a day, Healthcare, sorry, childcare is an iPad or a television set. Kids spend their entire days online. No one takes them out walking. No one takes them out into nature. No one, educates them in this way. And that has to have massive effects on the human body and the human psyche and the brain and stuff like that, the way it develops. Cause people aren't moving for 4 or 6 hours a day or even 1 hour a day.
Yeah.
It really is unbelievable how we've turned the entire system, like, everything we've done in the last 50 years has pretty much been to make us less healthy. But we've got great technology, but that's maybe part of the answer, but it's not the whole answer. Like, we need to get back out and moving again.
Start thinking about that movement because some people aren't even focused on exercise. So, balance, stability, mobility, flexibility, and capability. Capability is your muscles. As we age, many people don't know that unfortunately we lose our muscles.
Yeah.
That's just natural degeneration. You can start to change that. With your children, it's the movement. It's you can't drink a gallon of water in one sitting. It'll make you sick. Like, you'll feel bad if you do it. Why do you think then people think they can go to work out in the gym for an hour and then they're done for the day?
Mhm.
Like,
Or
does that
the
make any sense? For the most, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
You should be getting up and going outside because we know now through science and the CDC is starting to showcase that outdoor activities can stimulate the brain better than indoor activities. So, why would we take away that from a child? Why wouldn't we actually put that into the system inherently and continue to do that? Because they're taking more away from our children than we did. I was outside. I remember a recess, 15 minutes in the morning and the afternoon. And then at lunchtime, they would do some extracurricular. We need to encourage and embrace that. And then going out into the mountains, like that's extraordinary where you go and it's peaceful, that tranquility, that whole ability to take everything in. It's like a picture in your brain. And that's why I focused on adjusted reality as a lens to a mountaintop.
Mhm.
It's the mountainous journey. It's not about the peak. It's about the journey. And that's why, you going all around the world, what an adventure.
Every single time it's life changing.
It is. And you can't really even embrace it with words.
No, you just have to do it.
It's an experience,
Yeah.
and your brain takes this in, and we need to make time for that,
Yeah.
and we're not doing it.
No, because we're all working too hard or focusing on the wrong things.
And for what? Like,
That's the real question.
there's a famous saying in the book in the Aristotle is, luxury really is artificial poverty.
Mhm. Yeah. And, whether you're paying off university debt or paying off medical bills, this push to have to work all the time to manage a lifestyle or to manage all the bills you have is a complete fraud, I think. And you can get there's a lot of massive companies out there nowadays that have stopped hiring from universities because the flexibility of people's minds when they come out of universities is not up to par.
Right.
And if we can get higher education, um, debt out of the way and maybe even erase things like medical debt, people could live on a lot less, people could work a lot less, people could spend a lot more time outside, and it would be just a lot healthier. I mean, that's just two debt options. Maybe credit cards shouldn't have 30% interest. Maybe they should have 8% interest or 5% interest, and maybe that would also help people get along a little well too. Like, there's a lot of things that can be done to get people to work just a little less. And the United States is by far the worst. Like in Europe, people have 4, 5, 6 weeks of summer holiday, and in Asia too. And it's crazy that this country has is working its people to the bone, has the highest amount of debt, has the highest amount of medical bankruptcies, has the highest medical care costs, has the lowest or one of the lowest qualities of life around healthcare of all the like nations in the world. It just nothing makes sense here. It's a bizarro land.
It's interesting too, like, just going to Amsterdam. I just was there last month, and what I recognized was those bike lanes are life lanes.
Mhm.
Like, they're everywhere. You have to worry about getting hit by a bike.
Yeah.
Like, here, it's like you're gonna get hit by a bus. But there, you have to make sure that you're well aware. that bike is 24/7. Like, they're on their bikes and good for them, and they look happier. And you know what? I was surprised when, like, their dining is hours long, where ours is like, "Okay, you've been here for 40 minutes, you need to pay your bill and get out."
Yeah. And they don't put poison in the flour and they don't put poison in the cooking oil. Like, yeah, it's
You
just,
feel good when you're there, like, I implore everyone, like you, Ryan, it's get out and journey, like, have the journey, whether it's in the mountains or it's traveling to a new place to recognize the people. Your brain thrives on that. It thrives on meeting new people, new sounds, and new accents, and it's such an adaptable operating system that I love biohackers,
Mhm,
because 'cause they're trying to make the world a better place by longevity. But here's the thing, why don't we just start with thinking about the operating system?
mhm,
You only have one right now, and you need to understand the manual. And that's where we look at what America's doing. You have inner agency, you get to choose. You get to choose, is it gonna be a Louis Vuitton that I'm gonna buy today, or I'm gonna take a trip to Nepal and hike
mhm.
and bike and taste the food. The experience and the adventure is so much better than that purse that's gonna sit in the corner and you're going to, at one point, get rid of it on eBay.
Mhm. Yeah. No, it's unbelievable. It's, modern the world we've constructed for ourselves is incredibly problematic on so many levels. I have a question. So when you go to chiropractor school, what exactly do you learn?
So, this is a beautiful part, and I had to put it in chapter 7 because it's called the revitalizement. Chiropractic is a lifestyle. It's not a career, and that blows people's minds. What do you mean by that? It means I don't turn on and off chiropractic. This is how I live my life. It's like lightning and thunder. And lightning is that burst of energy, that really brilliant moment that happens in your life that, like, you're fully focused, you're fully aware. That's lightning. Now, thunder is kind of like a career. It's 9 to 5, pay, there's nothing wrong with a career. But if you get into chiropractic, you're starting to see something very different. So you go through the full medical paradigm, only instead of learning the pharmaceutical side, and the hours are virtually the same.
Mhm,
4,200 approximately, hours of different science and pieces. The only difference is we're learning more nutrition, we're learning more about the human frame, function, and structure, and we're learning about the holistic side of supplementations and vitamins and stuff like that. We technically have a very similar uh, ideological education. It's just that there's a very different outcome when I start to look at function and structure than a medical doctor, which would be disease treatment.
mhm.
So I want to make sure that your range of motion is good, your gait analysis is good, that your posture is good, you're sleeping well, you're eating well, you're doing all the things that we would hope that can manage you. Ergonomics, like, people don't even understand. What is sleep hygiene, doc? Tell me about that.
Mhm.
Did you ever look at your pillow and your mattress and your sleep position? They play a massive impact in how your body responds the next day.
Temperature of the room, lack of
Yes.
digital distraction, light, all of this. Yeah.
And that even just a small amount of light
Mhm,
changes everything in your night.
mhm,
Just a small. So I'm a big fan, and many people roll their eyes, "Oh, that's self-she." But those 3D masks, the sleep masks that you can blink while you have them on, they're really quite brilliant
mhm.
because you get a deeper wave and the melatonin goes up. So if you're just doing this night after night and there's one little light in your room, it's cumulative. Every night, you're stealing melatonin from your investment bank. Every night.
I have an interesting story. So I played basketball in university at the University of Toronto, and my first year of university, I lived in residence, and I had a roommate, and he was fucking up all night studying and everything like that, and he was a bit of a mess. So I started sleeping with a sleep mask and earplugs,
Mhm.
and I still fucking do it today.
Yep.
And it is the single greatest thing I have ever learned how to do is to sleep with earplugs and a sleep mask on because I sleep like a baby everywhere all the time.
Yes.
And it just it helps my like it's just it's a holistic approach Like, I live and die by my sleep, and I set my whole day like, I think it's Brian Johnson, who's one of these longevity biohacking guys, he's pretty famous, but he says, like he's like, "You either sleep to live or you live to sleep." And he just said basically, like, he lives to sleep. He does from the moment he wakes up, he does everything during his days to make sure that he sleeps better the next night.
Yes.
And meanwhile, a lot of us are trying to do things during the day so that we can do things at night and destroy our sleep. So, having to figure out these two paths, you have to choose which path you're on. And I chose sleep from a very early age, and it's been really spectacular.
And that's I love the Canadian just came out in you when you started thinking about basketball. I loved it. It brought me right back to home. Okay, now you go back to something simple like that, and people think, "Oh, that's just she stuff," but you start trying it, and you travel like we do. We're traveling, and if you start stealing from your bank account,
Hmm.
where are you gonna get it when you start getting sick? You gotta find another way. Come back to that operating system. You're right. That operating system is there to help you. But how are you helping it? So people have said to me, "Oh, I've had the same pillow for 12 years." Really? Do you have the same car for 12 years? Oh, yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah, I guess. What about your bed? Like the mattress? Oh, my wife, she swears by it, but my side's broken in. Like you weigh 300 pounds and you've got springs that are sulking and you want me to help you with your back pain?
Yeah.
Like, we have to start somewhere. That somewhere is today to take you from where you are, nowhere, to now here by looking at your bed, looking at your pillow, looking at those beautiful face masks. Maybe put those earplugs in and then you can sleep better. You sleep better, you wake up more refreshed. What happens then?
Yeah.
Well, then you get behind a desk for 8 hours and you're typing and it's not at elbows 90 degrees. You're up here and your monitor's way off. All these little things are actually taking away their withdrawals from your health bank account.
And then when the withdrawals get big enough, you end up getting sick, and then you have to go to a medical doctor, and then they put you on pills.
Yeah.
So you're the first line of defense.
You are the first line of you are the owner of the operating manual. I know we all don't. Here's the best part. No one knows how the operating system works, and you can't upgrade.
Hmm.
It's it's all you get. You only get one operating system. No new apps, nothing. You get to figure it out, and it's you that has to figure it out because everyone's different. It's personalized. Like, you've had more accidents in some areas of athletic than maybe I have. Maybe you fell out of a tree when you were 5. I always find it interesting when you're doing a patient history. I see what happened in your youth. Did you ever suffer a severe head trauma? And one guy said to me, "Yeah, I fell out of a tree when I was 5." What the hell does that have to do with anything?
Everything. Mm.
I just sat there like, here's where we go.
Yeah.
We have to figure out why you don't know that what happened to you when you were 5, that head trauma, traumatic brain injury is real,
Hmm.
has changed the way your nerves wire. Nerves that fire together wire together. And so even in our relationships, we have the past that creeps in and we have to figure out what that loop is that we play in. And like we can fight with our mate almost instantaneously because something happened in the past and you're replaying it in the future. And the thing is practice makes what?
Perfect.
It doesn't.
Mm.
How you practice makes permanent. So if you're practicing every day, this,
Yep.
and I'm schlumping right now for those who aren't watching, that's permanent.
Mhm.
And you watch these people walk outside, like just coming in here, and you've got these people hunched over. Their head doesn't fit over their heart. They're
Yep.
way out in front. Like your head should fit head over heart, heart over pelvis. And that's a problem for us. We should be getting up and moving around, but practice makes permanent means we're dysfunctionally changing how our brain will operate based on the environment we put it in, which is bad technology, bad sleep, poor environmental choices, and then we bring in the inevitable, our actual daily habits. And some of them cause trauma, like our relationships, whether it's at work or at home or with kids. Those change things too. So we are deregulating every day. And what we really want to do is escalate it to a place of beauty, vitality, and harmony and teach our kids chin over chest. Like we have to sit up. We have to work our posture because our posture's working us right now and it's bad.
Mhm. I mean, how much do you deal with your patients and things like diet or exercise and lifestyle? Because I feel like there's really so much that can be done on that front, as a way of preventing serious illness.
This is a thievery system. The thief is no one puts money in investing in the future. Everybody puts the current, what can I do now? What can I do now? And so chiropractors have a responsibility, the ability to respond to a patient with lifestyle choices. That's the gift. That's why we become family members. And now the interesting part is that there are different chiropractors for different things. So if you're a pediatric chiropractor, your number one focus is going to be on the younger lifestyle because a small spine is not just a small adult spine, it's a different spine. And things that happen to that small child are very different than what happens to an adult. So there are specialties in chiropractic, but I think one of the things I recognized is there are people that have tried chiropractic. Oh, I tried that. It didn't work for me. And then I think to myself, okay, what was it that didn't work for you?
They probably gave them a whole bunch of lifestyle changes to implement, and they just
You
said,
have
"Fuck
to,
that."
exactly. This is not easy. I want a pill. Give me a pill for this ill.
Yeah, the pill popping culture here is something that's taken a long time to get used to.
It is.
Yeah.
But then you also have to recognize that it's one experience with one chiropractor. That might not be that person that you should be seeing. There are other chiropractors that can fill the need. So don't give up on one thing. Like here's a question that was asked and it made me smile. If that pill was working, why do you get a refill?
Mhm. Endless refills. Oh, my insurance covers it. Oh, my insurance premiums have doubled in the last 4 years. I don't know why.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
We keep doing the same thing over and over again, and that we know is
Is
a
the
definition
definition
of
of
insanity.
insanity.
High five.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. It's true. Like like it's just it's just a bizarro land that no one's really figuring out. And my biggest fear is that my biggest my biggest fear is that healthcare longevity and having this deeper understanding of preventative medicine is really going to be like the next way to identify the one percenters. Like I feel like only the people with time and money will have the time and money to invest in their preventative healthcare procedures and practices, and making them permanent, and therefore living longer, living healthier longer. And I feel like this is going to be the next divide. Um, you know, I think the last couple thousand years it was money and monetary value, and I think the next maybe I don't know where the line is going to be drawn, but the next bit is going to be the healthy versus the unhealthy, and money maybe won't be as important. But what everything you're saying now and this whole idea of preventative and stuff like that makes sense for me. It makes sense for you. But there's millions of people in this country alone that don't have enough time to think about anything because they've got kids, they're working way too long, their spouses are working way too long, they're in debt, someone lost a job, healthcare debt, still paying university debt. Like the preventative healthcare doesn't even enter into their mindset at any given stage. And then, of course, they have a total breakdown at some point. They get sick and then they go to the doctor, and then it just keeps the cycle going.
I like to think of this much like we all know. We all know that if you don't go see your dentist and get your teeth cleaned, they're going to rot and you're going to get cavities and you're going to end up with having to figure out a really disastrous care plan.
I have an issue with dentists as well, but we'll leave that on the side.
Okay. So now if we just contemplate when you come into this world, have a health care doctor. I don't care if it's an acupuncturist, a physical therapist, or a chiropractor, but a doctor really focused on looking at you as an entire whole being care model
Mhm.
versus the disease care model, which they stay in their lane, we stay in ours. And then you walk with the healthcare model as long as you can until unfortunately there's a bump in the road. You need to cross that bridge. You come over to your medical provider and say, okay, here's where I'm at. This term that it's preventative medicine always made me think it's interesting because there's no medicine for prevention. So when you say those things, these are the words that I come up against at 3 o'clock in the morning when I'm thinking, huh, you can't really prevent and give medicine. It's preventative because medicine is by its name a product.
I guess the product that I was talking about, or the medicine I was talking about, is the knowledge,
Yes.
and
Beautiful.
the repetition of that knowledge, and making that a daily practice, and
Yes.
and making patients understand that that if you do these things, you're not going to feel like shit the next day,
That's
and
right.
and then once you don't feel like shit, you're going to be like, oh my god, this feels amazing. I want this every day. And then you start doing it every day, and that's what you do. And then when someone offers you a drink or to go out for pizza, you say hell no, because I know I'm going to feel terrible the next day, and it's just not worth it anymore.
Yes.
And but that's what I meant by medicine, is just that the knowledge, basically.
It's the beauty of wanting to live a health span versus a longevity span.
Mhm.
No one wants to live longer if you're sicker. And the beauty of this is if you're on an adventure and you want your life to be a journey of the great peaks and valleys and you can experience life, like walking to your facility, the whole bush down the street is all lavender.
Okay.
And my and it I ran my hand all the way through the lavender, and it's just it's cathartic. Like,
Mm.
to me, it's like you smell it, you feel it, it's beautiful, and lavender has been shown to have multiple medicinal impact, and yet no one really takes the time to just do that. Like,
Mm.
enjoy what you have and have what you enjoy. Those are concepts that adjusted reality really needs to pull from, is bringing you to a place where you are and then be excited about it. And you can't have your adventure if you're sick.
No.
That's the greatest opportunity we can think of, is what is life really about? It's
Well,
like,
every day is an adventure,
yes,
and you just can't enjoy every day of your life, whether you're in the city or in the mountains. You can't enjoy it if you're ill. Like, every day is the gift, every day is the adventure, every day is the thing. Like, we need to be preparing ourselves every day for the next day.
it's precious. It
Yeah.
it is. It's that's the precious part. And when I was in London and I had a driver who said to me, you look very concerned. And I smiled and he goes, may I just interrupt your thought process? Because I was really in it. We were talking about healthcare for the Brazilians, and I was coming from a meeting, and I was really deep in thought. And he said something that really changed the way I look at things. If you're too far in the past, you become depressed. And if you're too far in the future, you become anxious.
Hmm.
And that present is really present. And that's what we still call a gift. A present is a gift. So you are right. The balance is being present, preparing for the future, preparing for what you learned from the past. But it has to be in a balanced system.
Hmm.
And that's our health deposit that we make every day. Can we make those deposits so that when the rainy day comes and you do have your best friend from Canada say, "Hey, let's go out and have some drinks," and you know it's gone on too long,
Sure.
you can go into your account and say, "You know what? I have some of my finance here. I can pay for that problem I just did." And you're not going to be sick and lethargic and everything else that's happened because you've been preparing
Mm.
for some of the things that might happen. And Anna Lepke wrote a book, Dopamine Nation, and that's what we are. We're doped up. It's just a reality. She also wrote a book, Drug Dealer MD. I think she's one of the most courageous MDs I have met in a long time. And she's out of Stanford, but she really talked about you get choices. You get choices on how jacked you want to be because it's a gap. Dopamine is such an important molecule in our body.
Mhm.
And you get to understand that you can't be jacked up all the time. You
Mhm.
have to have a balance.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, that our children are seeing that dopamine pulse, which is why you can go and start scrolling Instagram for 10 to 15 seconds. Boom, boom, boom. That's not healthy and that's not good. And I bust my family members all the time. I'm right here. The phone needs to go down. Disconnect.
Yeah. or leave the phone at home and go for a walk for an hour. Can you imagine that?
People go into full-on withdrawal.
Yeah, and it's funny because in this town, I go for walks in the evening quite often here, and in this town, everyone's on their phone walking. Like, you'll see people walking their dogs because everyone here has dogs pretty much, and they're on their phone with their head down, walking their dog along the street at dusk, or they're on a call while they're walking their dogs, and it's just like, can't anyone just go out and enjoy a walk with their own thoughts anymore? Like, like this idea of like always being connected, always being connected to that dopamine, always checking that social media post. It's just it's yeah, it's just it's all just driving us more and more sick.
Yeah. Think about being away from it. Like, what would it feel like?
It feels amazing. I do it all the time.
I want you to really feel it
Yeah.
when your audience turns off their phone, literally turns it off.
Mhm.
They go into panic mode.
Well, that's why I love doing this, because this is the one time a day, and I've had my guests say this as well. This is the one time a day where people spend 2 hours looking at someone else eye to eye. And this is why I don't do Zooms or anything like that. Like, come to the studio, we'll sit here, and you actually have a human experience looking someone else in the eye, and you don't look at your phone for 2 hours, and you actually get to meet someone and have an honest conversation with another human being, which is something that has completely gone by the wayside.
It has.
Yeah.
It has. I think you're right. The level of oxytocin, like chiropractors are big huggers.
Mm.
Like we love to hug people. And they showcase through research that when you're hugged, that your oxytocin levels change. I used to be a care provider for neonatals. We're called cuddlers. It was my most favorite time of my volunteer experience ever. You go in and you literally hold a 1 to 2 pound baby in your hand. And the babies that thrived and had the best opportunity were the babies that were held in your hands.
Oh,
But they didn't have enough cuddlers. So I was constantly out there. Will you come with me and be a cuddler? And people are like, I don't have time for that. How could you not have time for this?
yeah.
This is the most precious thing you'll ever see in your life.
Mhm.
Is a 2 pound baby and their little teeny hands and their fingers. You can just move your hand just a little bit and they'll adapt to you. And they'll move their hands and you see things that are so sad and people aren't cuddling anymore.
Mhm.
The babies with their mothers were addicted to opiates and the baby comes down and it's going through withdrawal, opiate withdrawal. And you cuddle that little baby who's wiggling and just going through full withdrawal. It's heart-rending.
Mhm.
And but they still need the care, and you still need to be able to be with the baby to help the baby go through it. The baby will be fine. It'll grow up strong, but it's gonna need care now to get to that next place. So when you see people on your phone, they're wired in. They're wired into their phone. They're wired into the technology, and they're not letting go. So the audience, I'd implore, let it all go.
Mhm.
Go touch the lavender. Smell it, feel it, go talk to someone. Yeah, our youth today, our generation alpha, they're they're talking to influencers and thinking that they're, they're the new messiah coming to help.
They're falling in love with AI.
That's just not good. It's just not good.
No. Yeah, no, it's insane. Yeah, people are spending more time talking with other non-human entities, like, than they're engaging in conversations. And it's happening all the time.
It becomes a moment now where we reflect. What do we want the end to look like? And what do we want the beginning to be? And now we put the two ends together. That's where truly ends meet, where you define who you want to be and what you want to experience.
Well, I was listening to someone the other day, and I can't remember his name. He's a doctor, and he was on another podcast. And he was just saying, like, we've reached a point in our technological innovation as a society where we're now able to integrate tech into what it means to be human. And we're able to augment our human mind and body with technology that is going to make us more efficient, healthier, or maybe relieve pain, or maybe even harness an issue like blindness and be able to put a chip in our head where we can actually see, or fix some ailments and stuff like that. And this doctor, he was saying he was all for that. He's like, these innovations are amazing, but he says, like, it's kind of terrifying that we're at a stage now where we're about to put all this tech into our bodies, where when we haven't really figured out what it means to be human yet, and we really haven't come anywhere near optimizing what it means to just be human yet. And the fact that we've fucking mapped out Mars and spent more money exploring space than the human brain, like that should be a problem. And I find it hilarious that whether you believe that we're using 100% of our brains currently or we're just using 10%, and we're not even working at our full capacity yet, and here we are trying to put shit in ourselves to be better when we're not even figuring out how to optimize what we already have. It makes no sense.
It doesn't make sense, and I've recognized that even when we come to common sense, it's not common, so it's just a delightful way to showcase our full ignorance and non-appreciation. You can't have mental, physical, and emotional come together, and especially spiritual, because 'cause we've lost the spiritual, like, the gamut of understanding the why should continue to be pursued before we understand the how.
Well, religion has compromised that.
Yeah, it's all from the get-go, like, you can be visually impaired and then describe something to someone who can see, and they see the same thing.
Mhm.
That's mind-boggling. You can have cells in a petri dish, challenged if you're in a hospital on the 8th floor and in the basement, and those cells act the same.
Mhm.
We do not know the course of energy that flows through us and around us. And yet now we're going to play with a whole different system that has a whole different frequency. And we're thinking we're going to get to a signal, and it's just more noise.
Yeah, I mean, because it can't be monetized. Like learning how to make yourself more human is not something that a Fortune 500 company can monetize.
No.
And and preventative health can be monetized, but not to the same extent as the 100 years we have of this traditional healthcare system that's been built up, especially in this country, that has fortified its walls and blocked out any sense of any non-revenue generating income streams that may or may not be helpful to a patient.
Yes.
So it's again, it's just following this money straight to a society that is completely and utterly unhealthy.
I would like to just have that moment of reflection as we go through an adjusted reality moment of what's the purpose?
Yeah. What is that? But what's the purpose of being alive?
And when you ask the questions, as Albert Einstein would say, is the answers keep changing. That's the beauty of asking it. It's the questions that matter.
Mhm.
And when you ask them, it's going to be different for me than it'll be for you, but ask those questions. What's the purpose? And what do you love? And hopefully those two things start to come together because Mahatma Gandhi was quite a figure in life. And one of the pieces that really recognized the passion that he had was he involved himself in a cause that was greater than he was. And we have human suffering. We have ailments and we have people that need other people. And if we're going to lose the personal healing connection, if we're going to lose the person conversations, then what's the purpose?
Mhm.
Why are we actually here? Because those are deep, deep questions. And you can get answers that are different based on who you are around and what environment you're in. But what's important is your personalized answers. Coming to a place where you can fully embody the beauty of what you think and what you know and how you can expand on it. Because I believe optimistically, I'm not a glass half empty or a glass half full. I'm just saying, you got a glass, brother. Take it. And you get to choose what goes in it and how much you want to fill it with. The adjusted reality moment is you have a glass. Take it on a journey.
Yeah.
What's the purpose?
The
Ask the
journey,
questions.
mm,
Yeah.
yeah, not the destination. Yeah. No, it's insane, and it's like you watch all this. For example, we're here in the United States. We watch all this political infighting, and then we realize that this same shit's happening in 195 other countries in the world. Um, and the amount of wasted resources, time, money, energy, sleep, that we're all just spinning in circles, wasting time instead of trying to answer big questions like how to live longer, how to live healthier, how to understand what it means to be human. And like, are we alone in this grand old solar system, or galaxies all around? Like, there's just this movie that came out last week. I don't know if you heard. It's a Age of Disclosure.
No.
It came out on Amazon. It's all about the disclosure of UAPs and unidentified flying phenomenon and aliens and stuff like that. And it just came out last week, and it's been a huge thing. So people are now kind of re-looking at what the government has collected over the years and redesign and stuff like that. And then you start to realize, like, if we really are not alone in this, in space and in everything, then the amount of garbage that's going on in our world right now really makes no sense, because there's
Right.
so much more going on out there. And like you mentioned spirituality earlier, like maybe the spirituality that we had prior to all the bullshit that we've been consumed with in the last few thousand years, maybe that spirituality that we had was something that connected us with the stars and connected us with other planets or connected us with other human beings. And we've just evolved in such a terrible way. And we've completely disconnected our own connection with nature, which has disconnected whatever that was that connected us to other planets or other people or whatever anywhere in the world. Like, you can see how we've just degraded ourselves into this nothingness that we are now. Like, we don't look at the stars anymore because we can't see them. Like, we don't think we're part of something bigger because we have too much artificial light pollution from our cities. Like, we don't look up and see hope. We just muddle around here on earth, and we don't see ourselves as being part of something bigger.
A critical component that you just said, which is we are disconnected.
100%.
And that means as most of the earth has a connection in nature, like the connection in nature, you look around and you see the beauty of how things symbiotically work together, and that nature needs no nurturing, it just needs no further interference.
And it feeds you and you feed it. Like, there's like a symbiotic
That's
relationship
right.
here. Yeah.
And that's how that disconnection really means something to us is we're not having symbiotic relationships.
No.
We're takers.
Yeah.
What are we giving?
Nothing.
And when you start looking at the more we connect to these technology pieces, we give less and less and less. And an open heart is an open mind. And love really has to be the resonance. And that's not saying something all shishi and foo-foo is when you want to see true healing happen, walk yourself into a cancer ward.
Mhm.
See the man who's holding his wife's hand, who is starting to lose her life. That's the love, that's the hope, that's the ability for her to cope. That's how we can get to a next spot. Human beings are made to love. If we weren't, we wouldn't feel the emotion.
Mhm.
And that's the greatest gift you can have. I think it becomes hope and love are the trifecta to faith, knowing that we can, we should, and we will.
Mhm. I'm just wondering if we've, like, gone too far down the wrong path. Like, maybe like 10,000 years ago, there was a split in the road to, we were either going to evolve this way or evolve that way. And we just took the wrong turn. And, it's great to be alive and it's great to be here and it's great to be able to chat with you and things like that. But it's like, wherever we go from here, is it just more steps in the wrong direction? Like, how do we get back to really understanding our own humanity? Like, maybe we've just gone 10,000 years down the wrong road.
There is a famous quote by Robert Frost, and it's in chapter 7 on revitalizement is,
Yeah.
here's the thing, I took the road less traveled, and it made all the difference. You're doing exactly that. You start bringing humans together to make human impact. I have not given up hope.
Mhm.
I believe we have gone down the wrong road. That's why I wrote the book.
Yeah.
That's why the book is a journey. That's why we're on an adventure together, Ryan and I,
Mhm.
trying to figure out, well, is there a next peak? Because this can't be all there is.
Yeah, I mean, people just work their whole lives and then die of some curable illness because they didn't take care of their bodies when they had the chance, because they were either lied to or not educated enough, or they just ate food that people said was healthy
It's hand-to-hand combat.
every day.
It was said that to me today
Yeah.
by someone I truly adore, and it's like, you get your message out one person at a time. Only one person at a time. Even though we're on this podcast and it can be heard by hundreds of thousands of people, it's still one person at a time. I'm with you
Mhm.
in the room that you're listening, or you're walking your dog and you're listening to the Ryan Pyle podcast. It's one person at a time
Yeah.
because your message is going around the world. And you're changing the world by what you say, do, and think. I can think something and my body will change. You can know someone's angry not just by how they look physically, you can feel it.
Yeah.
And when you know there's an energy transference, and this is not an esoteric concept, you can feel it. Like you rub your hands together and you put it over someone else's body, they can feel the heat. How? I'm not touching you.
Mhm.
You feel the energy. Energy is our life, and how we think, feel, work, do, play, see, build, create, love all comes down to one thing: energy. And we have been disconnected from it.
Completely.
Artificial intelligence isn't going to make it better.
No.
We can make it better.
Yeah, yeah, but again, like again, it just being more human no one's figured out how to monetize it yet, so no one pays any attention to it. It's easier to raise money for an AI model or to build chips that let the AI models answer questions faster. Now that's the name of the game these days. Phones, all these things that take our energy away and take us away from connecting with other human beings or figuring out what it means to be human. Like it's just everything we do, which is quote unquote a step forward, takes us further away from realizing our own human potential.
It does. And
And I'm wondering if the roads are going to reconnect at some stage in 50 years or 100 years, where it's like, okay, guys, you went the wrong way, but we're coming back and here's another chance. And maybe you've got AI and you've got all this technology and that's great, but there's going to be another chance to like reawaken what it means to be human. Don't miss it again. That's my hope, like, is that somehow all this technology leads us back to understanding maybe what our most primitive ancestors could master, because, there's concepts out there that, you know, primitive human beings were way more connected to each other and to nature than we are today, and there was even, questions of things like remote viewing and people being able to communicate telepathically with each other because we were so connected with our environment and with each other, and there were no distractions, and we were so connected with nature that we had different ways of communicating, other than texting people. Like I would love to explore more stuff like that than just create more technology to dumb us down.
and when you move from adjusted reality to adjusted intelligence
Mhm.
with the honest thought process that perhaps the world can be a better place because we decide how how we will use it. Maybe it is that super highway where there's a flashing light saying, "This is a dead end.
Mhm.
Don't go there."
Yeah.
But only smart people who are paying attention, like those that are listening today, will see the signs and say, "Don't go there.
Or
That's not a place to be."
or one step further, maybe some people have to be healthy and have to take care of themselves and not get sick in order to feel healthy enough and to have enough free time and to have enough energy to see the sign, to look for the sign, to identify the sign, like, and again, keeping us fat and sick and unhealthy and blah, 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 just keeps us all from recognizing where we're headed and it's the wrong direction.
True potential lies in health.
Mhm.
And I think you've nailed it. I think that is one of the key aspects that we tonight develop an understanding that we're looking for the best optimized health because as a healthy human, balance becomes the goal. The balance in our relationship, the balance in our careers, the balance in nature, the balance in our kids and our future.
Mhm.
And if you're healthy, you see creativity and beauty. If you're sick, you see sadness and loneliness.
Mhm.
Loneliness is one of those easily curable moments. and a social prescription, which is one of the um, books that I had as an author that I talked about. This social prescription is healing has many facets, and how we come together as a social opportunity, whether it's nurturing a neonatal or getting out and talking to kids and fostering a habit or kind of building a community. That community can never be underestimated in the power that it can achieve when it achieves it together with a common good.
Mhm.
But the question will be common good, like common sense. Can we have common good?
Well, we don't have common sense. So it's gonna be an uphill battle for common good, I think. Sadly. Yeah. No, it's tough out there. Like it's, you can't read the news, you can't engage in politics, you it's a strange I really think like the wheels fell off. I don't know how you feel about this, but I'll lay this out. I really feel like the transparency wheels fell off during COVID. Like, I feel like that was really up until that stage, I feel like we were all just kind of bumbling along and things were going pretty good and, you know, everything was kind of behind the cloak. And then COVID came out and we just realized how terrible so many people in this world are and how easy it is to manipulate populations and using fear to manipulate them. And I just feel like the gloves came off around transparency and understanding just how whether it's elite governments or whether it's the people who fund governments and people who are actually pulling the strings, how low they think of the average person. And I think that that really has woken us all up. And I hope that and also too during this time the proliferation of podcasts because that really expanded exponentially during the COVID lockdowns. People started buying microphones and talking at home to professionals and experts like yourself, like, and getting the word out that things don't have to be the way they are. And it created this alternative media landscape that's actually free and open and not co-opted by pharmaceutical companies. Like pharmaceutical companies, I think represent like 85 or 90% of the ad revenue on CNN. And then when CNN has their CEO of the year, it's surprise, surprise, the pharma or Pfizer CEO. So, like, and people don't ask questions about any of that. So I just feel like COVID somehow like reawakened us, I think in a positive way, like to realize that there are people out there that are doing some really shitty things. And I hope somehow that triggers us over the next decade to again, pulling ourselves back from the brink of being zombies and back into whatever it means to be more human or trying to understand that.
That freedom was the biggest learning experience, I think, in COVID is freedom.
Yeah. That was our world war. Like, I don't, like we didn't like our grandparents, they fought in wars and we didn't, my generation, at least we've never had to fight. Um, I was born after Vietnam and I wasn't I'm not a US citizen, so I wasn't involved in the whole Iraq, Afghanistan thing, but those were different. Like, I think this like COVID was somehow like our world war where we were lied to. The same way, Americans were lied to about Vietnam, for example. I think that that's gonna I hope that makes us better and I hope it makes us more skeptical and makes us ask more questions as we move forward. And then hopefully we can have some say in the conversation of what it means to live better, healthier lives.
You do recognize when you get put through the fire
Mhm.
and you're forged by fire, and COVID forged us by fire. It's still going to take some time to pull it out because we still see COVID disaster problems still. The isolation, the sadness, the despair, and the fear of having the human agency to choose. There is still fear there, and we're still working through it.
Sure.
And a lot of very unfortunate. I'm not sure what to think. I'm not sure what to say. We really need to come together to listen more than we unfortunately speak. We have 2 ears. I think it was a balanced system. 2 ears and 1 mouth
Mhm.
and 2 eyes. That's critical. The balance is real, and I think we were developed as an organism to do exactly what we need to be effective in this world. We just haven't figured out the balance yet.
Yeah.
And the balance and the alignment are going to be critical moving forward. And each person has that moment to reflect on, where am I in my alignment? Not only just physically, but emotionally, and how to get back to the basics, which we have lost.
Yeah.
Basics of communication, the basics of not wanting to go out because you were in fear,
Mhm.
the basics of coming together in holidays and not destroying them with politics. I mean, that's a big deal. Like, I never grew up with, you don't think like me, so I can no longer like you. I never grew up with that.
And actually, our entire higher education system says we should sit down and talk with people who don't think like us. And if we want to have fun with it, I'm going to defend the opposite of what I think of, and you're going to defend the opposite of what you think of. And we're going to have a friendly debate using each other's arguments against each other. And that's what higher education was all about. And today, no one uses it. So why the fuck bother going to university?
No, it's now it's, um, I only had one mishap
Mhm.
in the entire time of COVID with my Canadian counterpart part, which I've been friends with for 34 years. And I paused and I said, "Are you willing to give up 34 years of friendship for a political conversation?"
Mhm.
And I then said, "I'm going to give you time to reflect on that. So I'm going to end this phone call knowing that the love in my heart is real and 34 years does not get thrown away in my world. But I think you need to reflect on it."
Mhm.
And the answer came back almost immediately with an apology,
Mm.
which is beautiful. A lot of people didn't get that.
No, I mean, Canada's strange. Canada is really a strange beast these days, and like I could do a whole podcast on that. But like, there's more Canadians that want to talk about Donald Trump than want to talk about politics in their own country. And just for everyone out there who might not know this, Canadians do not vote in U.S. elections. Even though
That's right.
even though apparently we could come in illegally to California and not show any ID and vote, but or New York State, which is closer, but, that's a different argument, but it's amazing, but you have to understand, like, the Canadian political wizards that are running everything behind the scenes are so happy when Canadians are so focused on what's going on in the United States that they don't even know what's going on in Canada, and they can't think critically about what's going on in Canada, and they can't vote properly because they don't understand what's really going on in Canada. And the people who are milking the system and corrupting the system and making the political system completely unlivable in Canada are just having a field day because all of these Canadians are so focused on Donald Trump.
Yep.
And it just blows my mind that the Canadians have not figured that out. Like, I go up to Canada every now and then, and I, have dinner with some family and stuff like that, and all they wanna do is talk about Trump and how I live in LA and how I could stand living in LA. I'm like, "Why don't you talk about what's going on in Toronto? Because Toronto's a fucking mess." Like, what you know what I mean? Like, they wanna do is talk about Trump in the United States. I was like, "You don't live in the United States." Like, "I'm fine." Like, "I've come to peace with whatever I've chosen." And, like, "You guys need to clean up what's going on in your own backyard and stop looking everywhere else."
Peace is that. I love that you use that word because, you know, I had this conversation with a girlfriend this morning actually, and I said, Wouldn't it be nice if we could find peace and security?" Those are really important to women.
Mhm.
And women by nature, and I know you're gonna get a lot of haters that are gonna hate right now when I say this,
I love it. Keep
but
going.
generally, haters are gonna hate if they don't understand what truly is great. And one of the things that I generalize on is women tend to network really well and they tend to nurture really well. Now, that doesn't mean men don't network or nurture. It means that the primary role that a lot of women love is nurturing. And they do that through networking with other women. And that one of the things that we can all agree on is that security in a woman's life is very, very, very important. You go to Brazil and you talk about security, and the first thing they'll tell you about is the criminal outlets that happen around them.
Mhm.
Um, many women in America are very fortunate that they never have to think about security. But there are lots of women here that are being sexually trafficked, human trafficked
Mhm.
for a variety of reasons. Security is a critical component when you're the underdog. And peace is one of the things that only creates contentment. That's the harmony and balance. You cannot have balance in your life if you're in fear.
Yeah.
And security for a woman is critical because you can't let down your fight or flight then, and then you're always unbalanced. So I love that peace and security have to go together. And when you think about where people are, if they can't find it, they'll do what transference is. You can't find it in their own homeland. So then they start thinking about the other homeland next to them. And I think that's what happens. I think they can't figure out how to get security and peace in their own world, so they find places where they can then talk about others because it's much easier to look at someone else's log in their eye
Mhm.
than the log in their eye that is clouding their vision.
Yeah, I mean, it's easier to talk shit about your neighbors than figure out what's going on wrong in your own home.
That's right.
Yeah.
Go down to the basement and talk to your son.
Yeah.
He'll tell you a lot.
Yeah. And, the neighbor knocked over my garbage cans. He's a fucking idiot, or something like that. It's just like it's complete distraction, and it's a problem. But also too, like, you don't get peace and you don't get harmony in your life, and you can't address bigger issues and bigger topics without health. Like, and there's just and the health issue is just unbelievable. Like, I've never lived in a country where the entire food system is trying to poison you, and
Yes.
then the entire healthcare system is trying to bankrupt you, and somehow you're in the middle, you know, and again, this is also part of the problem. There's so many influencers, there's so many biohackers, there's so many people selling you all kinds of fucking shit that you don't need. And it's like, how do you get to the truth? Like lavender, okay, what does lavender really do? Without someone trying to sell me lavender pills or lavender tea or whatever.
No, you can go out right now, Ryan, and you can pull some of those lavender
Yeah.
leaves and you can dry them. I mean, there's so many fun things that we lose sight of, that creativity,
Mhm.
where I'm not trying to sell you anything.
I know, but you're in the minority.
Right.
You're the one. Yeah.
That's the statement right there.
Mm.
You can be
Yeah.
the one who holds the space for those that are grieving, for those that are sick, for those that need a hand up. You can be the one.
As a chiropractor, what do you think the best thing to do to get children, let's say age 5 to 15, what do you think in the United States would be an amazing thing to do to get them thinking about preemptive healthcare at a young age? Like, because you're not taught any of this stuff in school. You're not taught, about posture. You're not taught about how to balance physical activity with diet. You're not taught about the importance of sleep. Like do you have? I mean, because obviously habits are much easier to learn and to cement at a young age.
Yes.
And I'm just curious if you have any ideas about that.
I have the top 3, and I'm gonna start with the least that I think, and then I'm gonna go to the most important. Number 1, it's presence.
Mhm.
If I'm a parent, I need to be present, and I learned that the hard way too because I didn't know how addictive a a cell phone was gonna be when we gave it to our sons at 14. I had no idea.
You waited till 14? That's amazing.
I know.
Most I see kids that are like 6 walking around with iPhones, and they're $1,000 each.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So that means we need to be present in their life and really as much as we can do the eye to eye contact, the verbal communication, not texting. And then sitting down, if you can spend time with, even if it's just a minute, like just start really simple. I'm not a biohacker, I'm a reality person. The reality is we need eye to eye contact. Like, if you're gonna be in war with technology, eye to eye contact. Let's get real with our kids. That's step 1, be present with them. The second one now is going to be the why. Explain the why. Today, we're not going to have oatmeal because I'm just flip this over and I'm gonna show you what's inside. Okay? That's the why. Now you can choose it later, but I'm giving you the why. So sharing with them the why. Why is it this way? Because you're right, they don't get it taught in school, but maybe that's actually good. Maybe it's the parent's responsibility, the ability to respond to the questions that they have once they're present, that maybe it's best not to teach them, sex ed in grade 2, which I don't even understand. Like
Is that a thing?
that's a thing.
Hmm.
There's schools teaching sex education in younger and younger and younger classes. I don't understand that because as a child, there's an innocence and it's beautiful. And when the time comes, it's the right time. You have to choose as a parent when the right time is. And so being in the why with them as the second choice, presence, and then talk about the why. So it's your job then to know more. That's the beauty of it. The third is find someone smarter than you that can help you help your child because your child at some point in their life is not going to listen to you anymore. It's nature. It's taking you away from the nest. This is tribal war. If you're connected to your family the entire time, you'll never start branching out. You'll never be a primitive hunter, or you'll never be a primitive nurturer. You have to have dissociate from your parents. That's nature.
Mhm.
You see it in every part of nature. But then it comes down to who's gonna be there to teach them when they're not with you, and that is why I think everybody personally, this is my bias, is having a health care provider, like a chiropractor, you can go to and say, "When my son comes in, could you talk to him a little bit about the technology? Because I don't think he can turn his neck to the left anymore."
Yeah.
But it can't be from the parent only. And that's why finding a healthcare provider to help prevent problems going forward so that they can give the sleep hygiene. But you've done that all the way up to the point where they're ready to flee the nest.
Mhm.
And now you need someone who's going to help them understand when you can't teach them anymore because they're on their own and their autonomy now is to be I'm a man or I'm a woman. I don't need my parents to make decisions for me. But they have a healthcare provider who can do that because they've been with you on the journey the whole time. Find the chiropractor right from the get-go
Mm.
so that you have someone you can trust, you can rely on, you can call when things are good, you can call when things are bad. That would be my priority to change the future.
Yeah, no, I think that's amazing. I'm always fearful when we put too much pressure on parents because obviously parents already have a lot going on. They have to manage their own lives and manage, living on a budget and working and managing debt and all these things that no one teaches you how to do until you're deep in it, which is the advantage of every institution that works against us globally. But it's just a lot for them to deal with, and then of course they outsource things to the school, and then the school doesn't do a very good job of these things as well, and then you just get really confused kids that aren't really getting much of an education in any way, shape, or form because parents are working too much. There's no primary parent at home, and then the schools are doing less and less every year. So it's not easy.
No, we have this really unfortunate babysitter that tells all sorts of lies, and it's called social media.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And it's tragic in so many cases. And that's where I think parents have a moment to reflect on you don't want that technology teaching your babies. So, as much as you can, being in that space of presence and getting more into nature so you can talk to them about the whys, the natural whys, this is what we're doing. And this is the journey we're going to go on. We're going to go on a walk, no cell phone, just you and me. It's amazing, even just getting on a car ride, when you tune everything out, you just start talking naturally
Mhm.
when you're with someone. I used to take the 12th graders home from school, and I called it the Pope Mobile. You can ask any question, and I'll give you the best answer I can. And those young men asked me the craziest questions, and I loved it
Mhm.
because we were talking. And I could see the starvation they had with an adult who would be honest with them. They could ask any question, and some of them, I almost blushed inside, but I thought, "No, this is this is the question they have."
'Cause they weren't getting that at home.
No,
Mm.
and they were afraid to go to social media to ask because they knew they would get crazy answers.
Mm.
But the questions were real. They were imaginative, in some cases very vulnerable, and they showcased just getting in a car with a teenager and having them put their phone down. If you set an expectation, put your phone down, I'm gonna drive home. This is your moment. Ask me any question, and I won't judge."
Mhm.
That's powerful.
Yeah. That's an interesting that I hope people can take that and implement it into their lives if you've got kids out there. That's a nice way to do it. Because or else everyone's just sitting on their phones. Sometimes half the time, the drivers. You drive around LA, every time I mean, it's unbelievable. You look over to the left, someone is on their phone driving. You look to the right, someone is on their phone driving. It's terrifying.
Distracted driving is a critical component to how unfortunate people's lives can change in a heartbeat. And the story that I'm going to tell you right now could change someone's life. And that was a 21-year-old young man who was distracted. My 4-year-old niece had, well, they say it was rancid oil that caused pulmonary hypertension, which is um, unfortunately something that is very difficult to treat. And she ended up having a heart attack at age 4
Oh, wow. It's terrible.
and damaged the heart and lung enough that she had to have a heart and lung transplant at 4 years old in Canada.
Mhm.
And a 21-year-old distracted driver took the life of a 4-year-old. Really powerful stuff. So that 4-year-old that died in that distracted driving ended up giving his heart and lungs to a little girl. And those heart and lungs could only be done in Canada because in America, they won't take a child off of an ECMO to do a transplant. And she got a heart and lungs from this little boy. And it was such a beautiful story because you can't pray for that. Like, how do you, like, this little girl needs a heart and lung, which what do you do? It's like you're at a standstill. So anybody who's lost hope
Mhm.
that's listening, they, because I was the great aunt, I became the advocate for this little baby because my sister was losing it in emotional turbulence.
Mhm.
And I said, "You step away. I will be the advocate. I will answer questions. I will be there. I will hold the baby's hand. I will do everything I can so that you can also be strong and heal so that you can be here for the baby when the baby comes out of the surgery."
Mhm.
So I spent 14 days with that little baby waiting for her to get strong enough to accept the heart and lungs. And you can't tell the parent who got your son's heart and lungs. So that man that had to make the decision to give away his son's heart and lungs, he also lost his wife in that accident.
Oh, jeez.
So he lost his wife and his little boy. Through Facebook, he found the little girl that accepted his son's heart and lungs, and it was a beautiful moment.
Mhm.
I mean, of tragedy reeks beauty, and that is the most beautiful moment I've ever seen, is that father being able to see the piece of this little girl grow up, and she is now, 18, and they gave a 3% chance that this would work.
Wow. That's incredible. That's amazing.
And I call her my little nugget of love because can you imagine her world? She knows a world where she holds someone else's body in hers.
Mhm.
It's just, and she is the most loving, kind, beautiful individuals you will ever meet.
Mhm.
And it's the most touching story. I tell all the interns. First, never lose hope. And second, even in the darkest hours, something beautiful can transpire. And that man has the love of this little girl because of the loss that he had. And it's a moment of reflection.
Yeah. Oh, that's wild. That's the medical system at its best.
It is. So we've done our part, brought them full swing. That's an adjusted reality right there.
Slightly, yeah. So, look, I just want to talk a little bit about Adjusted Reality, your book. We got a copy here. Thank you very much for signing it. So, what can people expect when they pick up this? What's the journey?
The journey is now they get to be seeing the world in a different place. They get to see the why. Why are things like they are? And in 7 chapters, they can change their life. Like, it's not, I'm not saying this as a a euphemism of beauty and transparency and everything's going to be perfect. No, you're going to have a moment of reflection that will challenge your thinking, that will ask yourself hard, deep questions. This is not an easy book of, oh, this is easy, it's all la la and blah blah and biohacking. No, that's not what this is at all. This is the moment where you reflect on what's happening in our world? How do I play a part? What are the things that I can do right now
Mhm.
that could make a big difference in my life? And adjusted reality moments come up every day. The question is, will you recognize them? And then will you act on them? Because it's our own purpose is to be, do, and have better when we choose better. We have to choose. It's not going to be given to you. Nothing good ever is.
Mhm.
So choose wisely and take the journey. And that's what I would want the readers to get out of it.
Mm. And is that a journey of like basically overhauling your life and a little bit about some of your beliefs as well?
It's an interesting thing that you just said because the book really comes down to the rewiring of your thoughts in balance and how we can get back in balance. So on the book, you'll see that this is a lens. This is what you're looking through, and this is the blurred lines. See the gray,
Mhm.
and this is the bright light that can shine through when you see it. But you have to see it. You have to see the light to make a change. Otherwise, you're still in the darkness. Your brain doesn't want a revolution. It can't handle a revolution. It's why, your resolutions die in week 3,
Mhm.
right? Brains don't do revolutions. Brains rewire. And what brains will do is habitual. Brains love habits.
Mhm.
You build better habits, the brain rewires, and then practice makes perfect because practice is permanent. And that's where adjusted reality comes in. You start looking at your life differently, and it's like, holy cow, I had no idea. Everybody that's picked up this book that I have talked to has said, I had no idea.
Correct.
And that's your adjusted reality moment. When you have no idea, and all of a sudden you're like, whoa, that was trippy. I had no idea.
And then that puts them on the path
Hmm.
to living a healthier life.
The reflection is in the mirror.
Yeah.
And it's light, not dark.
Yeah. That's amazing. Was there anything else we haven't discussed that you might want to get into?
I think just wrapping this up
Mhm.
is to say thank you, Ryan. It's grateful heart that I came here, and I'm so grateful that I was able to smell the lavender,
Mhm.
experience the eye to eye contact, and see that we make choices together, and it's up to us how we reflect on them.
Yeah.
So I just want to say thank you. It was an awesome time. Loved being on your podcast. You ever get stressed, you squish that adjusted reality.
Which is the adjusted reality squeezer for if you get stressed. That's good. Okay, that works. That's a healthy outlet.
That's right.
Yeah. And no, thank you very much for coming by, and thanks for going a little bit wide on the conversation too. I really appreciate it because you've obviously had a lot of experiences and things like that. So it's always nice to tap in and kind of go off on a few tangents every now and then, which is what makes these conversations so much fun.
Absolutely.
But thank you very much. So now we can go up here so that people can see we're in the same room. And wonderful to meet you.
Thank you,
And I
Ryan.
wish you the best of luck with the book and whatever comes next.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Hit the button.